Hello, everybody. B flat. Part of, well, I guess what will be a terminology vocabulary series I'm putting together. We'll talk about today's topic, which is gradient. Most of these topics that are going to start falling under a vocabulary playlist will get updated as people offer their opinions, responses, questions. But in the first rounds, we will openly discuss what we know or can establish from simple Google search. So the AI response is a gradient can refer to several things: visual element of a color transition, a mathematical concept, rate of change, or a physical term describing a slope. Okay, in design, I will put a link to this in the video. Everybody can study something like this at their own pace. We don't need to make this exceptionally long. I am going to copy from some notes. Come on here. Great, first one. A dot density gradients. Okay, we are into a density gradient. Everyone can probably imagine where this is going to go eventually, but we need to understand what a gradient is. Obviously, this picture here, which is a dot density gradient, shows less dots in the area, or less density, to a very heavy saturation of dots, indicating a more dense environment. These types of dot patterns can even exist for, this is probably a population density, may or may not be, but we can actually realize that a density has, starting points and areas to the most saturation, and areas that come away from it that have less saturation. If we were taking a look at this area right here, which would probably be around, Nebraska area, we can understand that the gradient from the areas around the mountains back into more of the central plains will show an increase and then decrease back to an area. So a gradient has a direction of path. Let's go back to this one. A direction of path. It also has a measure, starting and finishing. This will become important the more we move on. So let's actually type in temperature gradients. So we can take a look at temperature gradients as well. If you took a look at a weather forecast, you can see across the United States how things change. Okay, we have probably warmer areas all the way to cooler areas. We have mid-temperature areas with cooling on both sides and a heavier temperature in the center. From the coldest temperature to a warm temperature before it reverses and goes back to a cold temperature, there is a change in value over distance. This is a gradient. Wonderful. We can accept that gradients do exist. Across here we can see very cold temperatures up in Canada, all the way down into Mexico, where we see higher temperatures. Is that Mexico yet? Yep, Mexico and Texas. People love to be sticklers at different points in time, so gotta dot your I's and cross your T's. So, by definition, let me see if I can get back to the AI in gradients. All. Oh my goodness. I have some notes off to the side here, and I haven't found exactly where I got them from. But by definition, a temperature gradient quantifies the change in temperature over a specific distance. That's why I'm not finding it. Let's go back to temperature gradients. All. Show more. Yes, elaboration. A temperature gradient quantifies the change in temperature over a specific distance. Wonderful. In atmospheric sciences, temperature gradients drive atmospheric circulation and weather patterns. The significance of this would be that our weather patterns do change. That means our temperature gradients change. That means there's nothing standard along a specific path that would indicate a regular change over distance. Anything that would be predictable or you could write a formula on. For calculation, the temperature gradient can be calculated by dividing the temperature difference between 2 points. Important, between 2 points. The 2 points define a distance between them. Wonderful. This is great. We have distance and length of a gradient. What we might also want to know is the orientation of the gradient, the relation to the zenith. Now, if we're talking about zenith being directly above your head, well, it's important to know that zenith, and we will get to that point. And if there is no change over distance or height from a point of measure to a point of another, there is no gradient. This is something we should realize. There is no gradient. By default, there does not have to be a gradient. We can take a look at how this continues. Let's go topographical gradient. Same thing. We can take a look at images of how something changes from a point, a high point, to low points all around it. This is just to understand what a gradient is overall. A gradient is a measured change over specific distance. Right across the board. This is a gradient. So then, as far as people who have the gradient, the quote-unquote gradient, the vertical gradient, put in front of them for horizontal observations, why? Why do we entertain the significance of a vertical gradient? Now, the vertical gradient is very important for refraction. Under very specific circumstances, light can progress at an angle into the orientation of the gradient and progressively refract over the length of that duration of the gradient. It, however, has entered as a ray of light, and it will exit as a ray of light. It will not continue as anything resembling a curved path. This is the basics of what I will explain in one of the next videos, which is really going to talk about the laws of light propagation, how light is accepted universally, unquestionably, to behave. And there will be the exception I just mentioned. But that just is not a open door to say anything you want. And I will cover that in the video. If this piques your interest, it will be coming. Pay attention to my channel. Like, share, subscribe. All of my content is open there for anyone to see and use. Thank you for your time.